showcases strands of marsh grass, historic homes, and wrought iron work. Savannah, Georgia is a city of unforgettable images. Many of the picturesque doors and gates in Savannah's historic district were forged by blacksmith John Boyd Smith.
The iron has a will of its own. It's hard to bend, it's hard to work. So usually the person that's able to manipulate it is strong-willed, and just trying to shape the iron to your own will, I think, is the fascination.
For 35 years, John Boyd Smith has been forcing iron to do his bidding. It's a battle of wills that's been going on since he was a boy.
You have to have a work ethic that allows you to get up and tackle this brutal medium day after day, year after year, and not get frustrated, because it can be frustrating the first couple of decades. When I first started out years ago, you couldn't get paid very much for ironwork, so you had to turn out a lot of it. So I taught myself to work, fast and hopefully efficient.
But while speed counts, a tidy shop is not a priority.
My shops, all of them, are sort of like grunge pits.
But from this messy workspace emerges great beauty. This day, John is forging leaves and flowers for a gate for a client's home.
Now that I've feathered the leaf and brought it to a thinness at the edges, we're going to take some tools and make it three-dimensional. We're going to put a long groove in the leaf.
John's natural gas forge runs between 1600 to 2200 degrees Fahrenheit. The steel must get orange hot before it's flexible enough to shape. Once the groove is added to the leaf, John flattens the stem before rolling it into a tube.
This takes a little bit of eye-hand coordination.
While John works on one leaf, another is reheating in the forge. John is a whirlwind of motion.
We're going to take the leaf, which has already been grooved and stemmed. We're going to put it over the horn of the anvil and bend the first compound curve in it, right here. Then we're just going to flip the tongs over and finish out the compound curve in the opposite direction, which gives you the flowing lines of a leaf.
John isn't striving for realism.
The first thing I'm going to do is just feather down the edges.
He's trying to capture the essence of nature. In this case, the simple beauty of a wildflower.
The next step that I'm going to do is what we call texturing. We're going to put some lines or texture in the surface of the flower. And we use, in this particular operation, we use what's called a straight peen hammer. It's a quick operation.
John further enhances the petals by adding a fold to each one. This step requires John to be nimble and be quick.
But basically, I'm going to draw them together to a point. We do it on the horn of the anvil, just freehand like this. We're actually just folding the metal over on itself and just drawing it out to a sharp point, the way you see that in a flower. The next step is we'll put an actual compound curve in each individual petal, or rolling it over the way a bloom would be.
When all 6 petals are contoured, John must give the flower depth.
What I'm trying to do now is to get it to curl up like a real bloom. You can see the bloom start to fold up.
The finished bloom is pretty enough to pick, but it's destined for the gate. When Modern Masters returns, a fireworks display the blacksmith way. When Modern Masters continues. The The sun burns with searing fierceness as it rises over Savannah, Georgia. The flames leaping from blacksmith John Boyd Smith's outdoor coal furnace are also intense. This is no place for the faint of heart.
Iron is a very brutal medium to work.
John enjoys both the drama and the creativity the medium offers. His gates and furniture adorn homes throughout the South. John has finished making the flowers and leaves that will embellish a client's gate. Now he's creating the branches they will hang from. This coal-burning forge and 300-pound air hammer allow him to shape thick steel rods.
I can continue to refine this until it's very smooth with more and more heat. But I don't want to do that because when I'm doing something organic, I leave the hammer marks in it so it looks like the bark on a tree.
When the rod is refined to the right roughness and thinness, John bends the bow.
That's called freehand bending, where I simply just bend it by eye. If I wanted to do a more controlled bend, I'd put it over the horn of the anvil and continue to bend it. But lots of my bends are just free form. I just look at them. That's how I get the randomness of it.
Once the branches are created, John must weld each and every leaf in place.
We've done gates that had over 2,000 leaves, and each leaf join represents a weld that has to be welded, ground, finished, so it gets to be pretty labor intensive.
The finishing touch for the gate is a coat of copper-colored paint. Altogether, the gate takes 300 hours to complete, about 2 months worth of work. Even though the work is exhausting, it's also exhilarating.
Years ago, someone asked me what it takes to be a good blacksmith. I said 2 qualities, perseverance and stupidity. And I think most people that work, I'm jesting, but in a sense I'm not, this is a brutal medium to work in. And no one really can work in this long term unless they really enjoy it. I don't ever do the same thing twice. I don't do production work. It's all original work, and I think that's what keeps me interested. If I had to do repetitive work, I think I would have burned out long ago in this business.
But even after 3 decades of swinging a hammer, John Boyd Smith's creative fire still burns bright.